Hello and welcome to the Sci-Fi and Fantasy edition of Incoming, the video podcast that takes a look back at the week's miniatures releases. This show is for week ending the 13th of November 2009, and as always I'm your host Neil Shirk. Well, not a huge number of sci-fi and fantasy releases this week, so I'm going to cheat just a little bit. Rather than having a top 10, this week we actually have a top 11. Okay, so better press on. At number 11 we have a couple of new releases from DreamPod 9, and this is for their heavy gear range. You have an Alpha Squad and a Beta Squad. The Alpha Squad contains one Martial Golem and 3 Constable Golems, whilst the Beta Squad contains one Martial Golem and 3 Man-at-Arm Golems. Interesting little sci-fi walkers here from DreamPod 9. I don't know if I've ever really been a huge mech fan, but these look clean enough, it has to be said, they look fine. Number 10. And a new release from Impact Miniatures. I think this is a long-awaited new fantasy football team from Impact, and these are the Sarcos, who are basically reptilian, almost like alligators and crocodiles. And just look at these, absolutely fantastic sculpting on some of these, really nice detailing. I must admit, looking at a couple of them reminds me a little bit of the alligator from Bedknobs and Broomsticks in the football match. The guy in the middle on the first picture just has that look about him. A great little set of releases these, full of character, really well sculpted. Looking forward to seeing these in the metal. Good stuff from Impact. Number 9, new release from Critical Mass. We saw a couple of weeks ago that they released a new tank. Well, now we have an APC and a scout vehicle. You can see the new tank on the left and the APC and the scout vehicle in the middle and on the right. Yet more nice stuff here from Critical Mass. I was certainly incredibly impressed with their tanks, and they certainly seem to be keeping that level of detail up with their other armoured vehicles. So these are well worth looking forward to, I think. Number 8, we're back to Gabby Hunt, a name you may or may not be familiar with, but this guy sculpts miniatures, but he used to work for Weta Workshop and probably still does. So you've seen an awful lot of his work on the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Chronicles of Narnia and stuff like that. This is his new dragon, which is still work in progress, I believe. But that's looking quite impressive, isn't it? Be interesting to see that when it's completely finished. That's a nice model, that one. I do like that. 7, we have a new release from Ratham. This is the game for their post-apocalyptic range that we've seen releases for before, and this is Scourge. It's all done with an RPG and a one-handed flamethrower. Certainly the phrase, I think, loaded for bear springs to mind. Interesting mini, this one. Maybe not quite as good as a couple of their previous releases in this range, but certainly worth a look, I think. Number 6, and the first of 3 new releases this week from Dark Sword Miniatures. This is from the sculpting genius that is Tom Meyer. This particular figure is one of their upcoming releases. This is a Brienne. Absolutely incredible figure, this one. Just looking at all the detailing and stuff, I'm just constantly stunned by just how good a sculptor Tom Meyer is. You can see on these pictures there are several different angles of the pose. You can see there's a variation with the helmet, and from this close-up you can see just how fantastic the actual facial feature work is on this particular miniature. We'll be seeing another one of Tom Meyer's in a minute. I'm just constantly amazed by this guy. He's such a good sculptor. Number 5, first for a couple of releases this week from Heresy. We haven't seen some new stuff for them for a while, but nice to see. And, well, this week in the UK, we are once again going Doctor Who crazy. And so here is the latest incarnation from Heresy's Doctor Who range. Or not Doctor Who range, should I say. This is a representation of a young Doctor. He's actually the guy who's taken over from David Tennant. It's a pretty good likeness of him, to be honest. Good stuff from Andy Foster. I completely missed, but he has also produced a figure of the Christopher Eccleston Doctor Who as well. So if you're a fan of the new BBC series of Doctor Who, get yourself over to the Heresy Miniatures site. He's got some very interesting figures there that you might want to take a look at. Number 4, and it's back to Dark Sword. Another new of their releases this week is their Visions in Fantasy 2009 Halloween tribute. And this is a witch who is in the middle of enchanting a sword. Quite an unusual piece, this one. It's One of those arty pieces, really, as opposed to a figure that's actually going to be of much use as far as gaming is concerned. But even so, a tremendous sculpt, I think you'll agree. If a somewhat slightly non-archetypal witch in the fact of, it's a typical dark sword female, to be honest. Somewhat buxom, scantily clad. She just happens to be a witch. Okay, into the top 3, and another release from Redbox Games. Now these guys, although they're not producing very many releases at the moment, the ones they're doing are of excellent quality. This character is called Mordred of Muspelheim, or something like that, and he also has a subtitle of Wyrm's Bane. So as you can see, he's actually wearing what appears to be a dragon scale cloak. Really nice archetypal heroic fighter figure, this one. Lovely clean lines on the armour, very well detailed otherwise. I think this will be a joy to paint. So really impressed with this particular mini from Redbox. Number 2, back to Dark Sword and back to the very talented Tom Meyer. This is Rob Stark the Young Wolf. Have a look at this. This figure just speaks for itself. Absolutely superb detailing again. Quite a nice natural pose, kind of a readying for combat sort of pose. You look at the facial features on the up close, you can actually see, yeah, the guy's actually got a short beard, and it's just really well detailed. Fantastic detailing on the cloak, on the chainmail. Oh, absolutely fantastic figure. Again, comes with an optional different head, bassinet type helmet. Either sculpt is just absolutely fantastic. Probably on any other week that would be my number 1, but this week my number 1 is a figure that when I saw it, it was like, well, first of all was oh, that's awesome, and secondly was, oh, that's naughty. Yeah, it's the new Hunter figure from Heresy. This is Hearn Skulltaker. This is a limited edition figure. I think there's only 1,000 being made. Or as Mr. Foster has put it, there's a maximum of 1,000 made. There may be fewer. I must admit I've ordered a couple because these are just awesome, aren't they? Absolutely awesome looking figure. You obviously don't need me to tell you what it's of, but really captured the race fantastically well. So taking slightly more of a risk than Mr. Copplestone did a few years ago with his Alien Hunters, but I think this is a must. It looks like this is a really big figure as well. I mean, that's a 40mm base that it's mounted on. So that looks to be a really large figure, probably scale, probably something like 8 feet tall, something like that. It comes with a multitude of extras, different arms, different weapons, all the usual weapons you've seen from the films. So I'm really looking forward to getting hold of a couple of these. I believe more are promised in future, so watch this space. But that, without question, is my favourite sci-fi mini of the week. So there you have it. Another fairly quiet week, to be honest, but certainly some absolutely excellent stuff that's been released this week. So hopefully you've seen something there that you like. Well, before I go, I just want to thank Zach at Tabletop Gaming News and Bill at the Miniatures page. Without the sites that these guys maintain, this podcast simply wouldn't be possible. If you've enjoyed this and you want to have a look at other shows, they are streamed on a loop at Warboots TV. Just visit Warboots TV and you'll find them all at the bottom of the page, along with several other streaming videos from other companies. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Bye.